Hello my gorgeous friends on the internet, how you are doing? Okay, so I believe my previous video really helped you a lot. So today I'm going to be looking at a topic that is not too common like that. So it's actually a reverse platform channel. So if you could recall, I've created a video concerning platform channel before now. I'm going to put a link in the description below. So basically, platform channel is used if we want to call any native API from our Flutter application. Okay, so we use the platform channel to call the method, get the results, and then display the results in our Flutter application. So what about you want to call a Flutter method from our native platform? Okay, so to achieve something like that, we are going to use the reverse platform channel. So it's more, you can use it, let's say you want to trigger a particular method in your Flutter application every seconds. Let's say you want to check for, or you want to communicate to the database every 5 seconds. You can just use the platform channel to start the service, and then the service will run every 5 seconds to, then every 5 seconds is going to call. He's going to use the reverse platform channel to call the Flutter method and then trigger whatever you want to do, or if you want to show a notification and all those stuff. So in today's video, we are going to be looking at the reverse platform channel, and what we are going to be building is just exactly what we are going to be building is just what I explained now. So it's going to be about we are going to use platform channel first to communicate with the native. Okay, to communicate with Android, like the native platform, to trigger a service. We're going to use the platform channel to trigger a service from the native platform. And then once we trigger the service, we trigger a timer as well. So the timer, every 5 seconds, the timer is going to call a method in our Flutter application to show either a toast. Okay, we're going to be using toast to just show a toast. In your case, it might not be a toast. You can maybe send a request to your server or your database to check if there is any new data. If there is any new data, you can send the notification to the user using Flutter. Actually have a notification plugin which you can work with for that. Okay, so without much ado, let's get started. So first thing first, you can see this is the app running, and currently it's empty. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to remove this stuff. And before I start, I want to actually open, so go to this Android folder. So I want to believe you are using Android Studio, but if you're not using Android Studio, if you're using VS Code, just copy the code as it is and put it inside your VS Code Android part, which is what I'm going to do now. And if you're using VS Code, it might show you might get some red lines, import errors and all those stuff. You can just ignore it, but it's always best to use Android Studio when you're working with anything that requires the Android side, okay, that requires Android specific code. So I'm going to go to my Android folder, which is this directory, and go to the Flutter and open module in Android Studio. So open this in a new window. So now I have 2 windows running. This is the Flutter window, okay, so, and this one is the Android window. So it's actually loading. So for now, let me just first of all start with the Flutter. Just write a simple method that is going to call a native service. So that service now is going to have a timer inside that is going to trigger every 5 seconds to call our Flutter method. Okay, so let's do this. So now I'm just going to close this Android because it's already opened in the spot. Okay, now you can see it's opened already. And if you go to app, go to Java, go to this, you have the main activity. Okay, so I believe you also have the same view in your own application. So let's go back to the Flutter side. So what I'm going to do now is to go to the lib folder and main.dat. So I'm not going to create any new dat file here. Everything is just going to be written inside this particular class. Okay, so I will just get rid of this. Okay, so I want to rebuild mine. So remove this, my home page, the whole of it. Okay, so I need to create a class which is basically a stateful widget, and I'll call this my home page. All right, so save this, and we should just have some screen that is not looking good. Okay, so dark. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to use the scaffold widget. to just create a simple app bar, and we can call this reverse platform channel. Okay, so save it and open your app again. We have reverse platform channel and empty. So basically what I want to do now is just to have a floating action button here, and once you click on that floating action button, it's going to use through platform channel and then call the native function. Okay, so for testing purpose, we are just going to show a toast once the service starts. Okay, then we can now further from there. Okay, so here I'm just going to create a floating action button, and we can call this floating action button dot extended. Okay, so on pressed, basically just going to call the method, so just set it to null now for now. And this label, let's see the label. Is it a widget or it tests? Okay, it's a widget, so we can just be okay, start service, simple. All right, that's it, and I can save it. Okay, so now we have the button. Yeah, we have the button start service. So this start service, once I click on it, it's going to call a method. So I'm going to create a method above here. So create a method like this. It's going to be a void method because I'm not going to be returning anything. So basically this is just going to be start service, and it's going to be an asynchronous method because you're actually calling the API, the native API. So this is where I'm going to write the code for that. But before I do that, I'm going to create a channel, a platform, a method channel static class, a static variable, and I will call this one platform. So just call it platform. So okay, and then we have a method channel, and I'll give it a unique name. So I'm just going to give it reversed. Okay, so it's just going to be a unique name. And the reason why I said it's going to be a unique name is because you can have more than 4 channels or more than 4 platforms that calls the API. Okay, so make sure they are all unique, and this unique name you also get it inside the platform side, so the Android side as well. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to use try catch here. Okay, because it's a platform channel, it might throw error and all the stuff. So I'll just call this one no need for results, yeah, because I don't want to get any result from the native side. I just want to call the service. Okay, so the service that we enable our app to run on the background. Okay, so I can call platform dot invoke method. So basically invoke method is going to be a name of a method inside the Android side. You're going to see that later, but let's just continue for now. So the method name is going to be start service. Okay, and that's it. Alright, and I can have on platform exception, so if there's any error or whatsoever, we can just catch this stuff here. So okay, the error there. Okay, so I'll just print this stuff out. Yeah, just print the error, and that's it. So this method is going to call the platform channel. So I'm going to put the start service inside this button, so remove the null and put it here. Okay, so whenever we click on this button, it's going to call this method and then start the service. This service is actually a method which we are going to create right now. So now I'm going to go to my Android app. Okay, so the Android side, which is the Flutter view. So here, right here now, I'm just going to create a method, what is it called? Configure Flutter engine, basically. But before I do that, I will have to create another channel. So private var, and I'll call this channel. And remember, it must be the same with your channel from the Flutter app. Okay, so I'm going to go back, and this is the channel. So I'm going to copy this and go back here and paste it here. Okay, so make sure they are both the same thing. Override the method here, which is configure Flutter engine. Then once I do that, let me close this. Once I do that, I'm going to call use method channel. Okay, and so the method channel takes two arguments, which one is the messenger and the other one is the name. Okay, so let me put the messenger first, which is Flutter engine. I'm getting it from this, okay, this parameter here, Flutter engine dot I think I have that executable dot binary messenger, and then the channel, which is this name, so I'm just going to pass it here. Okay, and then we have dot set method call handler. Make sure you select this one that has call and result. Okay, all right, like so. Okay, let me shrink this a little bit. Okay, so we have call and result, but now I'm not going to be using the result, so I can just replace that with an underscore. I'm only going to use call, so I'll check for if statement. So if call.method is equal to, so let's see the method we are actually trying to call here. So if it's equal to start service, you can see this is what we are trying to invoke, platform.invoke method, which is start service. So if it's equal to that, then we know that we get is actually calling a method inside our Flutter application. So if it's equal to start service, I'm just going to start the service intent like so. Okay, but before I start that, I really need to create the service first. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to right click, go to this your Java file, this your directory, click on it, go to new, and you're going to see service here. Then you click on service. All right, and it's going to create a new service. So you can just leave it to my service, or you can change it to whatever name you want. So make sure you untick this, or you can leave it ticked if you want. So I'm going to untick it and click on finish. So just wait for it to generate the sources. And okay, all right, now we have this my service, which extends service. Okay, so now we have this unbind. This unbind, I can just replace it to okay, so we have unbind. So what I'm just going to do, I'm just going to say return null, because I don't want to bind anything. So just return null here, and that should fix. Okay, and we are having error here. Let's see, null cannot be a value of non-nullable type iBinder. Okay, so I'm just going to add this okay, this nullable type here. All right, so the error is gone. So now I'm going to create call on create. So this on create is going to call whenever we start this service. So whenever this method is triggered, it's going to start the service. So let's just create an intent here that is going to start this service. So what I'm going to do first, okay, so what I'm going to do first is actually to start the intent, and in order to do that, I'm going to call, just create a variable. It's going to be, okay, let's make this immutable variable, but it doesn't matter, you can make it mutable variable. Okay, I'm just talking because you guys are actually coming from, majority of you guys might just be called Flutter developers. You don't have any idea about Kotlin, but it's very good you learn how to use native platform to develop applications, and that way to actually give you some edge, okay, while working with Flutter, because while working with Flutter you'll be required to write native code, okay, to do stuffs. So it's always better you learn native development than you learn your Flutter, but it's always good to learn Flutter first before coming to native. But I would advise you learn native first before you switch to Flutter, because it will actually help you a lot. Okay, so without saying too much, let's just start, create an intent. So I'll call this service intent, okay, like so, and then I'll call this one intent. Then intent is actually, sometimes we use it if we want to navigate to another page in Flutter, just the way we have navigator.push. So for native we use the intent to navigate to another page, but that's not what we are here for. So I will use the intent requires a context, and also it requires a class. Okay, so the class is actually going to be the name of our service which we want to start. So if you go here, and the name of our service is actually my service. Okay, so I'm going to call this my service and put this stuff class.java. Okay, all right, then now I'm going to start the service. Okay, then just call service intent. All right, that's it. So what will actually happen here is that whenever we click on this button, okay, so if I go to this stuff here, this is just normal platform channel. I've not really gone and started the reverse platform channel yet, because okay, so what is actually happening here now is if I click on this start service, it's going to call this method, and this method is now going to invoke, is going to communicate with the platform channel through the platform channel to the native API, and then it now check for any method that starts with start service. So just invoke method start service, and here now I'm checking using if statement to check if the call from the Flutter side is equal to start service, then just call this intent. So this intent is going to trigger this service that runs on the background, and we have our stuff here. Whenever we click on it, I want to show a toast. Okay, so let me just call toast.makeTest. Okay, call this, and I can now say, okay, service started, like so. Okay, toast.length long, yeah, dot show. Okay, that's it. So what I'm going to do now, I'm just going to save this and go back here. So since I'm actually interacting with it, I just made some changes in the platform, the native side. Doing hot reload is not going to make any reasonable effect. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to stop the application, and then I'll start it again. Okay, so let's just give this a little time for it to start up, and then I'm going to start the service, and you're going to see the toast in action. Okay, so now our application is up and running. So let's see what happens whenever I click on the start service. See if the toast is going to show. All right, service started. You see that? And if I click on it again, it's not going to work because the service is already running. Okay, so before this button will work again, except I have another button to actually stop the service. Once I stop the service, I'll be able to now start the service again. But since the service is running, I won't be able to call it again. Okay, so it just runs for the first time. So now we know that actually our platform channel is working, and is working perfectly. All right, so now what we want to do next is actually create a simple timer here for 5 seconds that calls our Flutter application. Yeah, so that it's going to call a method inside our Flutter application every 5 seconds. So what I'm going to do now is just going to create, I'm going to create a simple timer. All right, so what I will do, I will create a handler. So let's just have a var handler, okay, and call this handler like so. Yep, and that's the wrong handler. Okay, this one. Okay, so I don't know what is happening here. Okay, sorry, I was supposed to use the assignment variable. Okay, so once we do that, I'm going to initialize the handler. This should be handler. Okay, so I'm going to initialize the handler here, and I'll just say handler dot post delayed, say objects, and we have runnable, so I want this stuff to run for a specific second and all the stuff. So runnable, I'm just going to override run. So if you see this object now, it's actually showing red. So what I'm going to do, but before I override it, let me just put how long do I want this stuff to run. So basically we just want it to run for 5 seconds. Okay, every 5 seconds, which is the delay, is going to call the Flutter method. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is just to implement this main bus, which is the run, just requires one. So run is actually where we're going to write, okay, call Flutter. So this is where we're going to write the code to actually call Flutter. For now, call Flutter is not actually working. It's just something simple stuff which is going to call a method here. And okay, I'm going to have a static method. Okay, so that static method is going to the equivalent of static method in Java is actually companion object. Okay, so I'm going to create a method here that will handle calling, that is going to be responsible for calling the Flutter method. Okay, so I have a companion object. So first thing first, I'm going to create a Flutter engine. Okay, so just have private late init var, and I can call this Flutter. Okay, let me just call it Flutter contest. Okay, and then I'll call this Flutter engine. Okay, so now this needs to be initialized. So what I will do, I will initialize it inside here. So just call Flutter contest equal to Flutter engine. So this Flutter engine is coming from this argument, this parameter here. All right, so now I'm going to write a simple function which is going to be function, and I'll call this call Flutter method, like so. All right, so we have this, and then what I'm going to do now is just going to use a method channel. If you can see, what I'm actually doing here is still similar with what we did here initially, which is, okay, which one, okay, this one, yeah, it's still the same thing like this one, where we call method channel dot invoke method, and then we call the method which we want to invoke. So that's the same similar stuff I'm going to do. So it's just the reverse of what we did with the platform channel. So you are writing the Flutter code inside the native, the Android side, which is this side, and then writing this platform call dot set method in handler inside the Flutter application. So it's just similar stuff, but if you are not technical enough, you won't be able to figure this out. All right, so the first thing that goes in here is actually the binary messenger. This is a little bit different from that one. So we have the Flutter. To get this, since we cannot get this binary messenger directly from here, that's why I decided to create this variable and then initialize it here. Okay, so what I will do now is call Flutter contest, which is this. Okay, that executable dot binary messenger, and once you do that, I'm going to call, okay, it's a unique name, which is the name, the platform name. If you can see here now, we have a platform name which is unique, and I call this one reverse. Okay, so in this case now we'll call it, let me just make it unique, call Mr. Flutter. Okay, let's just go with that. All right, call Mr. Flutter, and then we can just now say dot invoke method. So which method exactly are we going to invoke? So the method we're going to invoke is, okay, let's see, I want to show a snack bar in Flutter side every 5 seconds. Okay, so what I'm just going to do is just going to call show, okay, instead of show snack bar, I'm going to actually show a toast. Okay, I will be using the default Flutter toast package to do that. So just call this one show toast. So it's actually a method, and then we can now, it requires an argument. So if you want to pass an argument, but in this case I don't want to pass any argument, so what I'm just going to do is just to return an empty string there. Okay, which is the argument. So this stuff, I'll format it now properly, break it here. All right, so in this case now, you can see this stuff now is not highlighted, is looking fainted because no function is actually calling it. So I'll copy it, okay, and call it inside this my service. So every 5 seconds, as soon as we click on this button to start the service, this on create is triggered, and then every 5 seconds it will now start calling this function. So this function is now going to call the Flutter method. Okay, So to be able to access this function, since it is inside a static method, so what we're going to do first is to call the class, which is main activity, then to now give us access to this call Flutter method. Okay, so what I'm going to do is just going to call main activity dot call Flutter method. Okay, and that's it. So now we are done with this part. I can decide now to close this stuff because we don't need this anymore. We have already done what we are supposed to do. Okay. All right, so now I will go back to the Flutter application, and now I'm just going to create a simple. Okay, so this Flutter app requires init states. So inside the init state, that's actually where I'm going to trigger what I want. So init state, it can be any method that you have that you want to call every 5 seconds or every 10 seconds. So inside here, now I'm going to create a simple variable. So we'll call this final string channel equal to, and what's the name of the channel we use here? So take note of it. It must be the same and not different. Okay, so come here. Now we have this. Okay, call Mr. Flutter, which is the name, and I'll go back and make sure you put it here as well. Call Mr. Flutter and terminate that stuff. So right here, and I'm going to use the method channel. Okay, and it takes the name, so I'll just pass in the channel, and we'll say set method call handler. So the set call method call handler, it has this call inside here. So the same thing I did inside here is see what we are doing in the Flutter side. So what I said is just the reverse. So we say if called on method is equal to call start service, but in our case it's actually show toast. So what I'll do, I'll just come here and say if this is the Flutter side right now. So if call dot, you can actually get the arguments as well. So we just say if call dot method is equal to show toast. Okay, then now we can now show toast. Okay, and then you can terminate this stuff. Okay, and this stuff requires something. So what I'm just going to do is just to return null here. Like so. So just return null, but we need, since is need to put a sync here. All right, like so. All right, so but for now, let me show a scaffold widget first. So scaffold messenger dot of context dot show snack bar. Okay, so I'm going to show you how to show a toast later. So Flutter is running. Okay, so this method will be called every 5 seconds. Okay, so make sure you save that, and you can terminate your app now. Okay, but before I terminate my app, let me first of all go to my browser. Okay, and let me search for the Flutter toast. Okay, remember it can be any method you want to call if you want to call your back end or whatsoever, but in this case I just want to use Flutter toast because I want to just a simple experiment, and that's all. So I'm going to copy this, okay, and go to my and terminal. All right, and I'll paste it here. So just wait for me to add the necessary dependencies. Okay, so the reason why I'm doing this stuff first is because I'm going to key this app and run it. I don't want to run it twice because this stuff is a plugin, and so now I can now key this stuff. So you can run Flutter pop get again. Okay, so once I kill it now, I'm going to rerun the application again, and let's give it some time for it to run, and then we just execute everything at once. Okay, so now the app is up and running. So let's see what happens whenever I click on the start service. So I'll click on start service right now, and nothing happened. Okay, so let's just wait for 5 seconds to see. 5 seconds, you can see we have Flutter is running. So to close it and wait for another 5 seconds again. Okay, so nothing really happened after that 5 seconds. And what is wrong? Let's see our code. Okay, so let's see if there is something I'm doing wrong here. Let's see our service. Start service. Handler.post delete object vulnerable. Okay, so the issue was actually from my side. Okay, so this delayed is not supposed to be here. So what I'll do, I'll just set the initial delay to be 0. And then once it calls this method, I'm now going to recall the reset the handler again. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to set it back to handler. Okay, dot post delete, and now I can now call my this and call this one 500. Okay, so this is going to call every 5 seconds. All right. So my bad, I really didn't do it properly the initial time. So I'm going to save it, and basically I'm going to stop the app again as usual and then start it up again. All right, so let's just give it some time again for me to execute. I'm going to click on this again to start the service. Okay, now we have the toast shown. Flutter is running. So let's wait for 5 seconds. Flutter is running. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, let's see again. 0, 1, 2. Right, that's it. So that's the calling. 5 seconds, 5 seconds, 5 seconds. But now observe, if I actually terminate the app, I don't think, like if I go to my home screen, I don't think it's going to show, because toast is not allowed to show outside your application because it does not have that context. So sorry, snack bar, I mean, is not allowed to show. I don't know why, but right. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to replace this. I'm going to replace the snack bar with a toast. Okay, so the toast, I believe, shows outside your application. Okay, even when your app is not on the foreground, so it runs on the background as well. So what I'm going to use, remember I added the toast package, and if you see here now we have this in prospect.yml file, which is the Flutter toast. So what I'm going to do now, I'm just going to call Flutter toast dot show toast, and then the message just call it Flutter is running now. Okay, so just call it like that. So we can change the color. We can say background color. Let's just call this one colors dot let's say red. Okay, and text color can be colors dot white. All right, so I'm going to save this. So now we don't need to do any hot restart. We don't need to stop the app and run it again. So just do your hot reload. Make sure your app is open as well. So just run hot restart. All right, so you can see now that stuff is running. Okay, Flutter is running now. Okay, sorry, my app is not open. Sorry. Flutter is running now. You can see it's running. So now there is no way to stop this service. So that is actually a task for you. You can create a button to stop the service. Okay. So basically what you're just going to do is just to change this stuff. Just create a platform channel, and once it's being called, you can now call. So this stuff is not going to be start service again. It's going to be stop service. Okay. To actually stop a service. Okay. So in this case, we have start service, but in your case, just do stop service. You can actually check for else if the call.method is equal to stop service, and then you stop the service. Okay. So now you can see our application is running successfully and no issues. So now let me minimize the app to be on the background to see if the toast is still going to show. So now it's actually in the background, and let's see. You can see the toast is still showing even when the app is on the background. But there's actually something I observe with Flutter. Whenever if I kill the app, I normally get this error that Flutter has been detached from the JDN or something like that. So if I remove this app from recent now, okay, the toast will stop showing. Yeah, the toast will not show again. But normally it should show. I normally get some errors and all this stuff, okay, that makes it the app will just to not show again and all this stuff. But I think the only way to solve issues like that is to use a broadcast receiver, okay, that actually whenever you restart your application, whenever you restart your phone, your app will start running immediately and all this stuff. So alright guys, that's what I actually wanted to show you guys. How to use reverse platform channel to call a Flutter method from the native platform. Okay, so I believe you actually enjoyed this video. I'm going to see you in the next video, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and actually share this video.